Big Brother, mainstream media, government cover-ups. You want answers? Well, so does he. He's Alex Jones on the GCN Radio Network. And now, live from Austin, Texas, Alex Jones.
Well, I was chomping at the bit last night and this morning to get in here in this studio and go live today. It is August 2nd, 2011. We're going to be live here for at least the next 3 hours. We knew that they were attempting to set up a super Congress, a Council of 13, to bypass the Constitution, the Bill of Rights, the Congress, and fully put us into the hands of the offshore global crime syndicate known as the New World Order. We know that Mitch McConnell had tried to just completely hand the power of the purse over to the president, bypassing Congress 2 weeks ago. He openly made those announcements, but people recoiled, and the president said, I can just use the 14th Amendment that was used against the states post-Civil War during Reconstruction, and every constitutional scholar out there said, this is outrageous. This is the military dictatorship of Lincoln and Ulysses S. Grant. And so instead they created a lawyer facade. But when you look at the details in plain view, it is outrageous. It is off the charts, and we're going to be breaking it down today. Pastor Chuck Baldwin, presidential candidate for the Constitution Party, of course, last round, is going to be joining us to get into a host of issues, including this and Romans 13, how Christians are taught to submit to the tyranny of government and how unbiblical that is. And even if you're not a Christian, the issue is the majority of Americans are Christians and are taught bow down and worship government. You know, if you're in Nazi Germany, lick the boots of Hitler, it's of the Lord. It couldn't be more unbiblical and uncommon sense. But getting back to the Super Congress, it passed last night in the House, and they say they've got the votes in the next few hours in the Senate. And it sets up 6 members of the House, 6 in the Senate. They're the only ones that get to vote, and then the president has a veto, so he's the 13th member. Or it's like they're his disciples, and he's the new abomination that we must bow down and worship. And, of course, this power will be passed on to the next tyrant. They just get worse and worse because we're deeper into this tyranny, and they've set the precedent to launch wars without congressional approval, carbon taxes without congressional approval, ATF putting new laws in that aren't even laws. It is, again, outrageous what we're witnessing. Warrantless wiretapping, totally illegal. Constitution completely burned to a crisp. The enemy dancing in its ashes. And they're having to openly get rid of the Constitution, Bill of Rights, because they've engineered a controlled depression. And they've got to ride the tiger now. They've got to ride this bucking bronco or this wild bull, or they're all going to go to prison. And so it is a criminal class combined together with a bunch of moronic freshman House members, most of them, who don't know which end is up. And I saw an incredible editorial. In fact, I forgot to print it, guys. If you just type in New York Times, says compares Tea Parties to terrorists. They actually say the Tea Party terrorist almost destroyed America, but thank God sanity prevailed. Ladies and gentlemen, under this agreement, if it passes the Senate, on all issues, as Harry Reid and others have said, not just taxes, not just spending, not just cuts, which is basically government itself. That's the key, the heart of it, the power to tax, power to destroy, the power to give the favors to the insiders and cut off everybody else, as we've seen with the power plants and all the rest of it, the healthcare waivers. They say no filibusters and no amendments, and now bills cannot originate from a single House member and then be looked at and scrutinized by others who then co-sponsor it and bring it to a vote. It kills the republic. Did you hear what I just said? Because words can't describe this. It kills the legislative branch effectively and hands it over to a super Congress, to a committee with the president with the veto power. And it gets worse. When they bring the legislation they've packaged out of the super committee, the 12-member council with the president as the 13th leader, Sauron, when the ring wraiths bring that to the House and Senate, they can vote it up or down. And then if the House or Senate doesn't vote on what they proposed, get this, listen to me. I'll tell you when we come back from break. You can't make this stuff up. We have the headline running at Infowars.com. Bankers abolish Congress. And that's exactly what they've done if they are allowed to pass this bill in the Senate that's now passed the House. And if the criminal government that occupies this nation for the foreign offshore banks is able to carry this out. Now, I shot 6 emergency videos last night that are up at Infowars.com. Aaron Dykes did a special Infowars breaking news special report. They were up here till midnight last night. I didn't even have to tell them to do it. They knew how important it was. And so they stayed up here till midnight to put that special report out. I almost never call other talk show hosts that I know and beg them to look at the information and cover it on their shows. And I appreciate some of those talk show hosts doing that. But I almost ran off the road yesterday as I was getting news alerts at red lights, reading what was confirmed in the language of the so-called debt ceiling agreement. I knew that this had all been proposed. And I even knew that our guest yesterday had said that they had actually reviewed it all, that this was a executive coup. But by the time I got home last night and spent the entire evening until 1 in the morning, so from about 6:30 until 1 in the morning, researching it, reading the text, reading mainline CBS News analysis, ABC, hoping that I was looking at this wrong, but also marveling that this is how republics die, not with a bang, but with a whimper. Remember 3 months ago, Ron Paul said, well, they've launched a war in Libya and they haven't gotten congressional approval, and Obama says he doesn't need it or want it. This is the last nail in the republic's coffin if we allow this to continue, because now the sky's the limit. And that's the issue. Remember just 5 years ago, George W. Bush saying, we don't spy on Americans without warrants, I promise, in a press conference. And 2 years later, it came out they're listening to everything without warrants. And now it's just, yeah, we're tracking everything. We're listening to everything. It's not legal, but we just do it. It's not legal for Obama to give insiders health care waivers, which give them unfair trade advantage and is complete discrimination, but they do it. It's not legal for the EPA to put carbon taxes in against select groups that aren't insiders and give waivers to insiders, but they do it. It's not legal in Chicago for the public schools to say you can't pack your child to lunch, quote, you're not trusted. They said, we can't trust you. It's not legal when it's not even law in Oak Park, Michigan to say we're going to put you in jail for 93 days and give you a $5,000 fine for a tomato box in your yard. But they do it. It's not legal for the ATF to ship close to 30,000 guns into Mexico over the last 2 years. That's killed 5 cops, 3 Border Patrol agents, and then perjure themselves to Congress saying they didn't do it, and then to be caught doing it and shipping them all over the U.S. to select gangs. And they don't get in trouble. So tyranny always grows slowly and incrementally, and then it starts to speed up to a gallop, and then a run, and now a mad, foaming at the mouth, 110% race. We are being overrun, and that's why they're grabbing private pension funds, public pension funds, stealing the veterans' death benefits, stealing the funds for their future care. They are taking everything, including the kitchen sink, and they're pulling boards out of the walls and the flooring up, and now they're pulling the superstructure down. I mean, it is like a million piranhas, and America is a big fat hog dropped in the middle of the Amazon, and a million piranhas are hitting us and hitting us hard. And I do not have words to describe the proof, the documentation, the nakedness of it. And a lot of people are sending me emails and seeing comments and getting calls. Where's Ron Paul? Where's Ron Paul? Well, he talked about the Super Congress being tyranny. He talked about it being bad in the last few weeks as they proposed it. But he did put out a statement last night saying this is very troubling. It neutralizes the rest of the House and Senate. Now we can't block tax increases or gun control. So people are saying, where's Ron Paul? Well, he was there last night. 75, almost 76, working. I saw his report come out at 10 o'clock at night. So, but again, Ron Paul's bad because he worked till 10 o'clock at night or later. Says, where's Ron Paul? Why isn't he talking about this? He was talking about it. Go to his website. Just because you didn't instantly see him on CNN. I'm sorry. One of my pet peeves has become people going, why isn't Alex covering this or that when I've covered whatever subject it is 50 million times? All right. I'm a little angry. I'm going to try not to overheat here and blow up because I need to go over this information. Let me just read you the headlines here. Super Congress to target Second Amendment. Gun owners of America. And they've got the quotes from Harry Reid in ABC News, CBS, and I even found the video last night, openly saying this covers everything. We can do everything. Here's Ron Paul. Paul Joseph Watson has an article on it. Ron Paul sounds alarm on disturbing Super Congress. And then disturbing's like the Titanic hitting the iceberg and saying it's disturbing. And then Ron Paul goes into saying it's extraordinary new powers, undemocratic, seizing control, fast track, they can pass taxes, gun control. We're going to go over all of that. Here's another one. Weekly Standard. Fiscal conservatives barred from super committee. It's not a super committee. That's the words of Harry Reid. It is a all-powerful Council of 12 with the 13th member with absolute veto power. That's El Presidente. Here's another great article that breaks it down. The debt crisis is a Trojan horse to cause the fall of America. Yeah, it's designed to bring us into receivership. Amid grumbling from both sides, Senate scheduled to vote on debt deal today. NPR. Morning Examiner. No good can come from Super Congress, and it breaks down the issues. But still, this is all mild responses to it. Mild. Let me succinctly break this down for you, and then I'll go to mainstream news saying it with the quotes so you understand, and I have the text of the agreement. It is a totally open-ended power grab. Worse than the, quote, debt deal, leaving an open window per week of $800+ billion a week that the private Federal Reserve could run up on America's credit card in October 3rd, 2008. $27 trillion, we haven't gotten numbers in a year, $27 trillion, over 70% of it going to foreign offshore banks and domestic media. Your tax money. I mean, this is a payoff. This is a buy-off for a systematic corporate takeover of America. It's not coming like the Soviet Russians or Hitler or the Chi-Coms. It's not coming with tanks and airborne troops coming down like Red Dawn. It's all done by oily criminals who have, for decades, taken over every position of power in the federal government and in the bureaucracies and in most of the states. And they, under the presidential decision directives, under the John Warner Defense Authorization Act that Bush started and Obama cemented, they say, we don't need to hear from 50 governors. We've appointed 10 that speak for the states. We don't need to hear from your local rural people. We've set up a rural council under the Department of Defense and Homeland Security. This is a total martial law takeover incrementally. But now we're getting up to Flashpoint. They've been building all this up, growing their tentacles, infiltrating everything, doing it all in plain view, so mostly unconscious people, bureaucrats, cops, military, general public, city councils. This is all done very calmly, very straight-faced. I mean, it's almost like Harry Reid and Boehner and Obama came out and calmly said, by the way, the temperature today will be 102 here in D.C., and there's going to be a meeting down at the park later. We're going to be handing out some free popsicles and talking about bicycle safety, and oh, by the way, a giant 10-mile-wide spacecraft just landed a mile away, and there's green aliens running around. Now, back to weather. I mean, it's that crazy, but they just kind of, well, like you do something in church. You let something out real slow in church, make sure nobody's looking at you, and then act like it wasn't you. That's what they've done. And people, it blows me. We have all these experts on, all these economists, all these historians, and